there, welcome to the Movie Review Mom YouTube channel. I'm the mom and I do the movie reviews, obviously. My goal is to save you time and money by giving you the scoop on filmmaking quality and content so you can decide whether or not you want to spend time or money watching a particular film. And if you're parents, I give you tips for parents. So today the movie I'm reviewing is called A Mistake. This New Zealand medical drama is now playing in theaters. It's rated R. It's an hour and 41 minutes. And my overall movie review mom grade is probably about a B to maybe a B minus. So let me give you an overview in a nutshell, and then I'll point out things I liked, things I didn't like, tips for parents, themes worth talking about, funny lines, interesting lines, and we'll finish up with recommendations for other films that are sort of similar that you might also like, or you might even like better than this one. So to begin, in a nutshell, the story is about a gifted surgeon whose life is thrown into disarray when a patient she works on dies. Blame is tossed around and quickly centers on her. The film was directed by Christine Jeffs, who also co-produced it and co-wrote it. The movie is not based on a true story, but on a novel written by Carl Schuker. Now, there probably are real life stories similar, but it's not based on a specific person. This movie piqued my interest because I used to teach at a nursing college for many years. All right, so let me give you some tips for parents. First of all, we see a lot of bloody body parts during a surgery. A lesbian couple is featured. There is some profanity, including F-bombs. Elizabeth Banks' character writes an F-bomb on a whiteboard for everyone to see as well. Kids will be extremely bored unless they're older and thinking about becoming surgeons. We see a woman wearing a t-shirt and only her underwear in a scene. We see a dog being put to sleep after wounded in an accident. Some of the themes that are illustrated very well are medical ethics, of course, bureaucracy and hospital administration, taking responsibility, guilt, blame, transparency in business, consequences of our actions, forgiveness, and acceptance. So here's the list of things I really did like about this movie. First of all, I like Elizabeth Banks in a lot of her movies, but not all of them. She's also directed films, and I like some, but not all of them. It's a little bit hit or miss for me. Over the years, she has been involved in a variety of genres, including comedy, horror, and drama. And honestly, my guilty pleasure franchise that is hers is Pitch Perfect. I don't know if you've ever seen those, but I just get the biggest kick out of them. Anyway, on to the other people. I haven't seen Simon McBurney in anything recently, and so I really enjoyed his performance. All of the cast members did a really good job, including Mickey Sumner, Fern Sutherland, Joel Tobeck, and Richard Crouchley. The film does a really good job exploring all sides of these medical issues. For example, all patients would want transparency in surgeon performance, right? But wouldn't be happy with the natural consequences if all of that data were revealed, which would be that many surgeons would leave the industry or move to another state or country where their records were not readily available for public consumption. And they talk about that. They don't spend a ton of time, but it's an interesting conversation for sure. There's an interesting element of the film that shows the surgeon cutting through a wall in her home. She doesn't like what she finds, which is a bunch of bugs, which is somewhat parallel to the opening up of Pandora's box of medical ethics when you ask these types of questions. Now, we do have websites where you can rate your doctor, which I think is super helpful. And I personally use those and left reviews. Now, on to the list of things that I didn't like. First of all, Elizabeth Banks' accent was kind of terrible and super distracting. She's American and she's trying to do this New Zealand accent. Originally, it starts off sounding British and then sort of a little Australian, a tiny bit of New Zealand, and it just wasn't great. So I wonder why she was cast in the role. She does a great job acting, but I know that there are some New Zealand actresses that would have done a good job, and or maybe just an actress that does a better New Zealand accent. Star power, I guess. What's weird is that quite a few other actors in the movie didn't have the classic Kiwi accent either. Now, there are probably a bunch of different accents in New Zealand, I suppose, but it's not the classic accent that I guess Americans expect. So if you're a New Zealander watching this and disgusted by everything I just said, comment down below and let me know how many accents are there, and if you think that some of these actors did portray those accents well. What do I know? I've never been to New Zealand, so sorry. The story is definitely depressing and heartbreaking. It's not necessarily a feel-good movie of the year. The very last screenshots went on way too long, and some of the filming, the camera work, the choices that the director made, I thought were interesting and did tend to linger longer than they needed to make the point. Now, whenever I watch movies, I write down the funny lines and the interesting lines that I hear simply so I can share with you and give you a taste of the dialogue and the script writing quality. So when I went back to look at my notes, I did not write down any funny lines. This is a serious drama, but I did write down quite a few interesting lines, and you can see all of them on my written review at moviereviewmom.com, but I'll share some of them with you right now. For example, Elizabeth Banks' character has the name of Elizabeth, but she goes by Liz in the movie. But what's interesting is her character's name is Elizabeth Taylor. Anyway, so Elizabeth Taylor, or Liz Taylor, says, the decisions we have to make in theater, meaning when they're operating in the operating room, the decisions we have to make in theater in fractions of seconds are boiled down to they lived or they died. No context, no case histories, just they lived or they died. That's not transparency. It's looking for someone to blame. And I thought that that point was excellent because she's absolutely right. If they lived or if they died is not the full story. You don't know, did this patient have a lifetime of surgeries or illnesses or things that would have obviously factored in to whether or not they lived or died in this particular surgery. So I thought that that was a really good point. And then another good point that she makes is, or well, she's having this conversation with a bioethicist who's played by Neo Atura. And he says, we must hold ourselves to a higher standard. And she says, I have a standard. It's the Hippocratic Oath. And I thought that was a good point too. The Hippocratic Oath says by doctors that they will do whatever it takes to save that patient and to do what's best for that patient. It's ridiculous to say, oh, you didn't really care whether they lived or not. That's not true. Doctors go into medicine because they want to help people. I have a nephew who's a doctor, and of course, he's a fantastic one. If you're watching, Stephen, love you. Anyway, here's another line. This one is spoken by Simon McBurney's character, where he says, I'm not sure women are suited to a career in medicine, particularly unmarried women. And when he said that, I was just like, wow, would somebody slap that guy? No, I'm not violent. I wouldn't slap him. But it kind of speaks to the people, the type of people and bureaucrats that this surgeon was up against. Like, what? Who says that in 2024? And then I like this line too. Liz Taylor says, we have a covenant with our patients. I will save you with my skills. We have a covenant with our patients, but we have a covenant with each other too. As she's talking to her fellow surgeon, saying, I don't know that transparency is the best thing for doctors, again, because the general public doesn't understand the context and the history of the patients and all of the factors that go into the outcome of a particular surgery. Now, whenever I watch movies, I instantly think of other films that are sort of similar. And so I wanted to give you 3 recommendations. The first one is one that recently came out called The Good Nurse. Now, that one is actually based on a true story. Fantastic performances, Oscar-worthy performances. I reviewed that one, so I'm going to queue that one up. So when this movie review is over, you can click on that little image in the box so you can watch that one in case you missed it or flew under your radar. It's about a nurse and some malpractice things that were going on, including criminal activity. Another movie that is such a great one is called Patch Adams. It is actually also based on a true story and is so heartwarming with so many great life lessons. And then the last one is a movie called Malice, which is also based on a true story and kind of crazy. So definitely check that one out as well. Thank you so much for spending time with me. When you get a minute, run over and visit me on all the social media. I'm everywhere. And you can learn about my movie reviews, my books, my products, and my other shenanigans. Have a fantastic day, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.